Hello, and welcome to the Finance Career Choice panel discussion. We are very excited to have our panelists and participants with us today. To get things started, we'd like to know how you are joining us. So at this time, please let us know if you are joining us as an individual attendee or if you are participating as a class via the poll on your screen. Wow. So in a short amount of time, it looks like 100% of our attendees are visiting us individually today. However you are joining us today, we hope you'll actively participate in the discussion. While you cannot chat with our panelists via the chat feature, you can and you are encouraged to submit questions for the panel or a particular panelist via the Q&A feature. Submit your name with your question and we'll read it along with your submission, or feel free to submit a question anonymously. There will also be a couple of polling questions, just like the one that we just completed. Now, without any further delay, I'd like to turn things over to today's panel's moderator, Jessica Beebe with the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Audia, and welcome to everyone joining us today. Again, we're glad to have you joining in on our finance panel. Today's panelists include Michael Adkins from the City of Danville, Brandon Adkins from American National Bank and Trust, Robert Bates from Benchmark Community Bank, and Rob Lainhart from Valleystar Credit Union. Please, let's open it up with introduction remarks, starting with Michael Adkins.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Adkins. I'm with the City of Danville, and there you'll see a picture of City Hall located on Patton Street here in our city. My job with the city is the Chief Financial Officer, or some refer to it as the Finance Director. I've been with the city for about 16 years. A big picture of what I do is basically, with the help of staff in the finance department, we track and coordinate all the money that comes into and leaves going out of the city. So money coming into the city comes from different sources. Some of it is taxes. If you own a car or a house here in the city, there are some property taxes that you pay. In addition, we receive money from meals tax, sales tax. We also receive money from the state and federal governments to help us with things like road care, and many other things. So all that money is coming into the city, and then we also have to track it going out of the city. So we pay employees, we pay vendors, we have to buy things like salt when we have ice storms and we have to salt the roads, or playground equipment for the public parks, books for the library, things like that. So we're tracking all of that money going out of the city as well, and developing budgets for each of our departments so that they know what they have to spend each year. Part of my typical day, I have certain duties I have to do, like I prepare financial statements. There in the top right corner, you'll see our council chambers. This is where the city council members meet. They are the elected officials from the city that help govern the city. So often I'm giving a financial report in that room to city council. I also have to monitor our revenues and expenses as they come in and out each day to make sure we're staying on track with our budget. But a big part of my day is always unknown. It's just whatever issues might pop up during the day with staff. Perhaps they're having trouble getting work done because of some obstacle that's come up. So we have to work through that, to work together to get through those. I've always worked in the finance field. My education, I went to college and got a degree in accounting. So I've always been in the finance / accounting realm. I started probably in a public accounting firm, like most accounting graduates do. A public accounting firm provides accounting services to the public, like doing tax returns or doing audits for other companies. But I've been at the city, like I said, for 16 years. So to get this job, of course, I finished high school. I had to get a degree in accounting from a four-year university, and also decided to go on to graduate school, which just means going on another level and getting a master's degree. And so those are some of the things that helped me get the job that I have today. In our introduction, we're supposed to mention our first job ever. When I was 17, I guess that's about the time I got my first real job. When I was 17, we had video stores that you would go in and rent videos, movies. We didn't have streaming internet capabilities then. And even Blockbuster, if you've ever heard of Blockbuster Video, that was kind of the big chain that stretched across the country where you would rent videos. We didn't have that yet either at that time. But we did have this little company, family-owned company called Video Horizons. And so I was a clerk at one of the stores there, and we rented movies. So that was kind of a neat job to have to start off with. One of the favorite things about my current job is that I get to collaborate with lots of different people in the city. We have about 1,100 employees, anywhere from the police department to the fire department to our parks and rec, our economic development department. They work to attract businesses here, so we have jobs in the city. So I get to collaborate with all these great people. And one of the things I like best about doing that and working here is the service that we provide to the community. That's why we're here. We're here to provide services to the residents and community of Danville. Anything from, like I said, public library to parks and rec, keeping the streets clean, anything like that. So I always feel like what I do, I can see an immediate impact on the community. So that's very rewarding. So that's all about me and my job.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon Atkins, Senior Risk Officer at American National Bank and Trust Company. So in the risk department, our job is to think of the bad things that could happen at the bank and try to prevent them. You might wonder what those bad things are in banking. Of course, we do worry about people stealing money. You no doubtly have heard of bank robberies, so we try to prevent those. But there's also ways that people can take money from inside the bank, people who work here. So we work to prevent that. We also work to try to prevent mistakes and errors that might occur that could result in a loss as well. In a bank, our main function is lending money. So the risk department tries to also prevent us losing money that we've lent. So as you know, when you take out a loan, you are expected to pay it back. And our job is to try to make sure we loan money to people who can pay it back and to receive the money from people who may be at risk of not paying it back. Besides those two things, we also work in compliance. And if you don't know what that is, that just means how the bank follows the laws and regulations that it's expected to do. So every industry out there that you may go into a career has certain laws that it has to obey, besides the laws that we all have to obey. And those can be a little tricky, and they require special expertise. So we have those people who do that. Another one of the things that we try to prevent from happening are computer hacks. There's different ways that can happen, but we try to keep the bad guys out of our computer systems any way we can. So it's just a quick overview of what we do in risk. I do not have a typical day, but I guess almost every day I meet with people. We often say we try to manage the behavior of everyone, but very few people actually report to us. So we have to create policies and procedures and ways to make sure that people are following the rules that the bank has for itself, as well as the laws that we have to obey. There's almost every day that I work with my employees on certain issues. We may have a fraud that someone has tried to, take money from one of our customers or from us, and we will deal with the police. So that's just one example of things we might do on any day, but there is no day that looks the same as the others. I've been at American National for 13 years. It's the only bank or anything in the financial industry I've ever worked in. Besides banking, I've been a teacher. I've loaded trucks at UPS. I've sold treadmills at Sears. And my very first job was at a restaurant that served hot dogs and soft serve ice cream. So I got pretty good at twirling those little cones. I was quite proud of that accomplishment. Education-wise, I have a bachelor's of economics from the University of Virginia. And because I was a teacher, I also have a master's in the arts of teaching from Averett. And surprisingly, even though I don't teach anymore, I still use some of those skills, even in day-to-day jobs. The favorite part of my job is absolutely coaching and training the people I work with every day. I think that does, go back to some of my days in teaching, but I do enjoy working with those that report to me and, try to help them solve their problems that they may have at work, plus to get better at what they do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Bates. I'm Vice President Market Leader with Benchmark Community Bank in Halifax. Much like the first two guys, a typical day for me just depends on how it starts. I spend a lot of time on the phone. I spend a lot of times handling customer complaints. It just depends on what happens from the beginning of the day as to how my day is going to turn out. A lot of my typical day will be basically making sure that my staff is here, that we're equipped and ready to take care of our customers as they walk in the door. I have been in banking for about 25 years, 12 of which have been at Benchmark. I started out as a lender and was able to work my way up through management. Pretty much I'm responsible for the market of Halifax and South Boston. We have two branches here, making sure that the staff is taking care of our customers, making sure we're growing our market by going out, calling on existing customers and potential new customers. So before COVID, I used to spend a lot of my time out and about, calling on customers, making sure they knew what Benchmark could offer them, trying to gain their business. Much since that has happened, a lot of it's actually on the telephone, or I don't get a chance to get out much, which has been a little disheartening for me because I like to talk and I like to get out in front of people. I would say that for the most parts, when I first got out of college, I worked for Walmart for a short period of time before I got into banking. And since I've been in banking, it's probably all I enjoy doing. And I don't think I'd want to do anything other than banking. Although I sometimes would like to do different aspects of banking. I much would like to do what Brandon does, and sometimes with the risk. I'm one of those lenders that lend that money out, and then he's wondering how my people are going to pay it back. So I know how he feels in his position. We do that a lot. I graduated from Longwood College, or now Longwood University, with a bachelor's degree in political science, and thought at one time I wanted to go into being a lawyer. But after I got the opportunity to start working at the bank, I pretty much put that behind me and have been doing finance ever since. I don't really think I want to do anything else. My first job in high school was working at a restaurant called Golden Skillet. I used to work there cooking chicken. If it was 100 degrees outside, it was probably 150 degrees in that kitchen. And doing that gave me the motivation to want to go to college because I knew I never want to do that for a living. So that's pretty much how it works for me. The favorite part about my job is being able to see a young person come in and get their first vehicle, being able to see a young person come in and open a savings account and make that very first deposit. They feel like they've gone from childhood to adulthood, seeing a young couple get married and come in and get their first house, things like that, being able to just be a part of the community and being able to give back and help people reach their financial dreams.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me here. So my name is Rob Lainhart. I'm with Valleystar Credit Union and I am a recruiter. So typically what I do is I attract and look for talent to bring to Valleystar. I would say a typical day varies for me. It can be from anything from working with teams, creating new positions, or helping them figure out what their budget is going to be for the positions, or doing market analysis, to playing around in our HR technology systems and making those enhancements for that, or looking at our onboarding experience. So any kind of candidate touch points from the moment we speak to a candidate, from the moment they apply, all the way to the moment we hire them in our system. So what that looks like. So that's kind of a typical day for me. I've been with Valleystar, so I'm new to finance. So I've been within this industry for 5 months. So I'm very new compared to everyone else here. So I'm still learning the ropes here about the finance world. But before this, I was actually in retail. So I worked with one of the largest e-retailers, Curate Retail Group, based out of Florida. So I was with them for 8 years, and I've been in HR in general around 10 years. My school, so I've got my MBA, so I've got my undergrad in psychology, and then I have my master's in business administration. For me, that was the MBA is the reason I got that, was just to help me understand more. There's so many different cogs and so many different pieces to an organization that gets it, that you have to get everything to work together. So that MBA really helped me kind of understand, as I'm supporting these different groups, what their function is and how it helps support and move the organization forward. My first ever job was with Target. I actually started during Christmas, which was chaotic. I will never forget it. There was like a Pokemon game that was released, and I remember being in electronics and throwing the games at people because they were screaming at me. I had no clue what to do. But I've never left retail until I actually started this position. So I think that job really helped me kind of understand like how much I love talking to people and interacting with people, and just I love the fast pace of retail. And what's the favorite part of my job right now is HR. I just love working with people. I love watching someone come in and watching them move up through the organization, watching them contribute and moving the organization forward. Again, I love watching someone come in at an entry-level position and watching them move up and get promoted. And it's kind of like, hey, I picked that person. I told you that guy, that lady was going to be awesome. And I really love that part.
Thank you to all our panelists today, and that was a wonderful introduction. We haven't gotten any questions in the Q&A just yet, so what we're going to do is launch another poll for our participants to understand what they'd like to know, and also if they've heard of the organizations represented here before. So first question, did you know any of the organizations represented on today's panel before today? And what were you most surprised to learn about from our panelist introductions? So please choose your answers, and in one moment, we'll get those poll results. Also remember that the chat feature is disabled, but please feel free to submit questions through the Q&A. We'll give it one more second. Okay, so it looks like it's almost a 50-50 split between yes and no. So about half knew the organizations represented today and about half didn't. What were you most surprised to learn? About 77% of our participants said their education and experience before their current position. So that's exciting. Okay, we already have one question in the Q&A, and it's, do you like what you do currently? So do you enjoy your job day to day? And we'll go through in the order that the presentations were given.
Well, I guess I'll start. Yes, I thoroughly enjoy what I do. As I alluded to in my introduction, I just enjoy working with others within the city and without. We have a lot of collaboration both inside and outside the city, and it's just fun. It can be anything from, right now we're working on developing a riverfront park for the community. So that's really something that's just exciting and fun to see from the very inception of the idea, as we work with engineers, developing a budget, how we're going to pay for it, and seeing that come to fruition. It's going to be a lot of fun over the next several years. So yes, even with challenges that we face, sometimes the economy can have a little downturn and things get a little stressful as far as, are we going to have the money here to do everything that we're supposed to be doing? But even that's rewarding in the end, because we find solutions and we work through it, and so there's some sense of pride when you get through those tough times. So yes, I thoroughly enjoy the job.
Oh, at American National, yes, I do. I do generally like my job. As Mr. Adkins said, there are frustrations daily. So when we maybe have experience a big loss where a customer has lost a lot of money and they're frustrated with us, it can be sometimes frustrating when to deal with things like that. But I think generally speaking, from day to day, this job is very rewarding because we get to sort of see what's going on everywhere in the bank and kind of have our hand in anything that's going on.
I thoroughly enjoy my job as well. I guess I can honestly say what makes my job great is also what sometimes makes my job difficult, and that's dealing with customers and the public. When they're happy, I'm happy. It makes everybody feel good. But when they're upset, they come to me, and it's generally not a good thing. But I'd have to say, for the most part, what I do, I thoroughly enjoy it. I do almost the same thing every day, but because every day is different because of the people I deal with, even though it's the same actions, it's a different customer every day. So that I find rewarding, is that I can do the same thing every day, but it's not the same because it's always dealing with different people.
I really like what I do. It's, I get to work with, everyone in the organization from marketing to finance to IT. So it's just every day I'm getting to learn something different. But also just speaking with people every day, just I get to learn new people outside of the organization, and I really enjoy that part. But no, there is some frustrations to this. Now, I will say that being a recruiter, there is frustrations, but ultimately, I love the people, and both inside and outside the organization I get to meet.
Oh, that's wonderful. We've got another question from Holly, who's a sixth grader at Dan River Middle. What inspired you to choose your career?
Well, similar to what's been mentioned in the past as far as previous jobs, my very first job, when I was very young, my dad owned and operated a paint and body shop. So they fixed, dented cars that had been in wrecks. And so I had some experience around there. It was very hot, very dirty. So at a young age, I decided, I really think I would enjoy an office setting, having some air conditioning during the summer and that type of thing. But I also enjoyed math. And so I knew I wanted to do something that dealt with numbers. So that kind of inspired me to head in this direction of finance and accounting. I took an accounting class in high school and really liked it. So I just kept pursuing in that direction. And that's kind of how it all started.
Well, for me, it goes back to my days at University of Virginia. I told you I was an economics major, and one of the courses I took was money and banking. And one of the banking system in America is sort of at the center of the whole economy. And I always enjoyed those classes. And math and finance is a part of that, but it's also a study of how people make decisions about where to spend their money and where to put their resources. So that was always in the back of my mind. However, I did spend some time doing some other jobs, and then ended up teaching for a while, but always in the back of my mind followed the national economy. And so had an opportunity to see what happens at a bank, and was hired as a temporary internship here at the bank, and liked it, and they liked me, so they hired me. And I I would say that the inspiration is that even at a local level, a bank like American National is tied into the whole economy, and that's always been fascinating to me.
I'd probably say for me, after getting out of college, deciding I didn't want to continue and go to law school, I was working, as I said, for Walmart. And I definitely knew that wasn't the future that I wanted for myself. So I just kind of was constantly looking through the classifieds. That's back before internet was all popular and all that stuff. There was no LinkedIn. I just saw an ad for an assistant manager position at a bank, and pretty much knew I had no experience with that, but I was reading a book, and it said, if you see something you think you'd be good at, even if you're not qualified, try it and see. They may like you and just give you a chance. And as they say, the rest is history. That's how I got my first job in banking, and I've loved it ever since.
Yeah, honestly, for me, at least within HR, it's at one point in my career, I was in management, and I always knew that I loved working with people. But I think ultimately I enjoyed that, being able to get people to be successful and helping them grow and develop. And then from there, I just had a really strong mentor that kind of guided me into HR. And then, like he said, the rest is history. So I've been kind of doing that, and that's kind of where I want to continue my career.
Thank you all again. This is a little bit different question, but could you share what is something that you think most people would be surprised to learn about working in your field? I think most students now are, if they're looking to get into the field, what's something that you think would surprise them or just surprise the general public?
I guess from an accounting perspective, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but accountants are sometimes referred to as bean counters. And I think what that really means is that accountants are looking at every penny and trying to make sure that every penny is accounted for. And I guess the public sometimes would picture us as having our heads buried in a ledger, or a book where we keep up with how much is money is coming in and out, that type thing. But I guess it's a whole lot more than that, because that's just a basis for decision making, really. Like I said, when we're looking at projects in the city, whether it's a new playground or buying a fire truck or many things like that, those financial aspects are just the basis for what can we afford, how we're going to pay for it, what do we need. So in my job, like I said, I'm working with all those different departments of the city and learning so much. I know things about how a fire department operates that I wouldn't know if I worked somewhere else. So it's just the breadth of knowledge that you're exposed to. And again, the numbers, the money is just the foundation of sort of sets up the parameters or the limits of what you can and can't do. But it's so much more than that.
So this is something that might surprise you. When you put your money in the bank, we keep very little of it in the bank. And that's because of what we do here. We take deposits from customers. We do keep them safe, but we take a lot of that money and loan it to other customers. And the reason that works like that is because not all of you want all of your money at the same time. So we are able to manage the difference between what people put in the bank and what we loan out pretty well. And that's a big part of risk management. So I would say if you wanted to put a number on it, if there was, say $1 million was in our bank, that someone put in our bank, we may only keep about $100,000 to $500,000 of that money actually in our bank or in our other bank account at the Federal Reserve. So a lot of the money that you put here is put out to work in the community in the form of loans, and then people pay us back over time. I assure you your money is safe, but we don't have it all here in the bank.
Along those same lines, what Brandon just said, we don't keep millions of dollars in the back in the vault either. So we do loan that money out. And I think sometimes people think, oh, well, I can just come into the bank and get $100,000 because my grandmother just wrote me a check for that and expect us to be able to have that in the back. And that's not always the case, because we have to take care of businesses and a lot of other customers as well. And sometimes I don't think the customers realize how federally regulated we are as banks. And a lot of decisions and the things that we do is not necessarily because we want to, but by federal law, we have to. And I think that sometimes they get mad at us, but as Brandon knows in his position, if we don't do what they tell us to do, we can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, coming from retail into finance, so two things. There's so many regulations. There were so many tests that I had to take and regulations I had to learn. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in HR. Why am I taking this? So yeah, that was a big, and the money, I didn't realize that a lot of the money, they don't keep it. It gets used and gets put into other services and stuff like that to help grow. But I'll say when it comes to people in HR, I think a lot of people, when I'm interviewing and talking to people, they don't realize how many people behind the scenes it takes to run an organization. So a lot of times when they see it, they go into a bank and they just see the teller, but there's so many other people behind the scenes, that from the marketing to the finance to the IT side. So just know that there's opportunities that when you come in you might see a teller, but you could grow into other positions. There's so much behind the scenes that you don't see.
I think I'm one of those people who was also surprised when you learned that the banks don't have all of your money at all the time. Thank you all for sharing. Obviously, to be in your professions or working in a bank, there are some math skills that you need to have. But what skill or personal trait would you say is the most important to be successful in your field?
Aside from just being able to understand finances, and I think this is true for most any career, I think one of the most important things is just to always maintain a high level of integrity and honesty with everyone you deal with, and also always be open to learning and listening. A lot of times we make assumptions about why things are the way they are, and we're apt to complain or think that they could be done differently and it would be better. So just always be open to the fact that there are things that you don't know, and be willing to dig in and find out what those things are. The more you understand why things are done a certain way, the more appreciation you have, and then the better advice or opinions you can offer about it. So those are the two things, I think: just to maintain a high level of integrity when dealing with others, and always be curious as to how things work.
Yeah, I know the question was, we're mentioning math because this is finance, and I think naturally people think math is important. And I would say that in the risk area, math isn't important. I think the bigger the institution or bank you might end up working for, the more numbers driven it could be. But truthfully, when I'm looking for people, I need better. I'm looking more for how they communicate. Can they write well? Can they, you know, we know that most people come to us can read, but can they understand complex regulations, or go through and read a paper about cybersecurity, understand it, and then communicate it out to our the rest of our employees in a way that they can understand it. So for us, communication is probably more important. And the interesting thing about that is you don't necessarily have to be one college major or another to do that. For my department, I have English major in my department. I have someone who actually went to law school in my department, but is not truly a practicing attorney, but is working in our compliance department. As I mentioned, I was an econ major. And I think we have a couple other various majors, as well as people who did not go to college, but the job does not require it. So I think that, you know, there's just a various amount of skills that it takes to work in any company, really, and banking is no different.
For me, I think I definitely have to say, to echo what Michael said, integrity is important. People give us very valuable information they really want to get out. And what I mean by that is, you know, I can't go out to the golf course and say, oh, by the way, Jimmy Smith came in today and I'm looking at doing a $1.5 million loan for him. We can't do that. We keep all that information confidential. I think communication is important, but one of the things that I learned in banking that helped me the most, I'm a talker, is listening. I can think by a customer coming in and making a couple of comments or something they want to do that I automatically know what's best for them. But I have found only until I listen to the whole story and find out exactly what it is that they want to do, can I then gather that information and make the best decision for them and make sure they're in line with what they actually want. So I would definitely say listening is a very important part of my job.
Listening is key. That's a good one. I think, you know, just that he said everything. Yeah, listening is key. I think asking a lot of questions, being inquisitive, is super important. You know, being comfortable with change is another one. You know, I think organizations where you're always changing and trying to adapt to the market, whatever is changing out externally. So you have to be comfortable with change. So yeah, I think that's key.
I would like to know, and I think some of our students might be interested in, is this your dream job? Is this what you love to do? Or is there another career that you'd like to, you know, go into?
Honestly, it's probably at the other end of the spectrum for me. If I had not gone into a financial accounting type role, my other interest was music. I grew up playing several instruments, and maybe about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity at my church. We were in between ministers of music, and so I had an opportunity for about a year and a half to direct the music program there. So that probably would have been the other interest. You know, I enjoy it as a hobby. I guess at the time I was scared that if it was my work that I would lose that love for it because it would be my job. So I decided not to pursue that. Also, you know, I'm conservative, so I wanted to have a career that I knew I would be able to get employed easily, I thought. So, but, you know, it's nice to have opportunities to sort of dabble in that other second career that you might have chosen if you hadn't chosen the first one. So that music would have been mine.
Well, for me, my interests have changed over the years. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, I might have wanted to be a fishing guide or own a fishing store. I think right now, if I was to pursue something of just my personal interest, I might be a running coach or have a running shoe store, or maybe a running shoe YouTube channel, which I watch a lot of. But But I think I'd like to emphasize, I mean, I enjoy this job. There's not a day I wake up and wish I didn't work here. So I don't know, dream job is a little tough, but I think I could say I really do enjoy working here.
You guys probably didn't recognize me, but I do a little modeling on the side, just teasing. I thought about it, but the camera adds 10 pounds. I'd probably say I like to collect classic cars. And one of the things that I can't do is the body work. Michael, as you said, your dad used to do. So I'd probably say if I could do that myself and do it well, I could probably have 10 cars instead of 3. So if I didn't have to worry about that, I'd probably like to be, I guess, an auto body person is what I'd like to do.
When I first started out, I thought after I worked in the first job at Target and then I went into Best Buy, loved computers. So for a long time, I thought I was going to go into IT. So I think my dream job is to mesh both HR and IT and be able to work on HR technology. So any type of any of your applicant systems or your people systems is what I think that would be my dream job.
Okay, well, we've got about 5 more minutes. So would you all share your best career advice for our students today?
I guess my best advice at this point in your education is not to feel pressured to make a decision right now, or even when it's tough, because I think we put a lot of pressure on our students when they're finishing high school to know, do you want to go into a trade? Do you want to go into college? What's your major going to be? So, don't put so much pressure on yourself. You can make course corrections or changes while you're in college. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it requires a little extra, time, but I would just encourage you to be very curious at this point in life. Ask people like you're doing today, what's their job? What do you like about it? Because I know at your age, there were thousands of jobs out there that I didn't even know existed, I didn't even know about. And even as I started college, there were jobs that I didn't know about. So just, ask your grandparents. I mean, even if they're retired, they probably had some type of job or career at some point. You can ask them about that, or ask your parents' friends or whoever you come in contact with, and just stay curious about things like that. It'll kind of help you decide what you like and what might interest you. And then, as I mentioned earlier, once you're in a career, I think the best thing to do is just always maintain a high level of integrity, a high level of ethics. Be honest with those that you deal with. Everything else will work out.
Well, there's lots of ways you could go with this. There's lots of advice I can give you, but I'll say this. No matter what job you're doing that day, go in with a smile on your face. Be open to having conversations with your coworkers, with your managers about what's going on at work, and be curious. Ask questions about why things are done and what could be done better. And I think you'll do well anywhere. And typically, if you do well at one job, you're likely to do well at another one.
I would say for me, I would probably give you the same advice that I gave my son. Don't choose a career based on the status or the financial stability that it will give you. I have seen people that have a job that they're absolutely miserable in, but they won't quit the job because they like what the job affords them as far as the lifestyle. And that ends up to be a very miserable life and sometimes a short life. So I say, do something that you love. And if you truly do that, you'll never work a day in your life.
I'll say be inquisitive, ask a lot of questions, be open to new things. You never know where you start out in one position or one thing in your career and it evolves and changes into something else. So always be open to new opportunities and new things. Yeah, that would be mine. And be happy. Yeah, whatever you're doing, be happy. Find something that makes you happy. Again, you don't want to do something that you're not happy with.
Okay, well, you guys ran through the career advice. So I'm going to open one more question, and this is a little outside of the, finance umbrella, but what is one thing you love about Southern Virginia and living here in SOVA?
Well, I've always lived in this area, other than when I was away for college. Of course, I've visited other areas. And I would say, I guess one thing I like best about this area of Virginia is the sense of hospitality. For the most part, we're very welcoming. Our coworkers become like family, our close friends. We're very open with each other, and just that sense of family and community that I think we have here. And maybe it's common for a lot of the southern part of our country, but that's what I enjoy.
For me, it's what I like about our area the most is we have some mountain bike trails at Anglers Park in Danville, and I spend a lot of time there on my bike and running. So whenever I need something to do, that's where I end up.
I would definitely say it's the people, but our part of the country is beautiful. And I think, one of the biggest things that I see that frustrates me is there's so much to do in Southside, rural Virginia. People just don't know about it because they don't ask the right questions. There's a lot to do here.
Yeah, I love the people, I love the scenery. I came from Florida. So, we have seasons here in Virginia and Florida. It's always green. Christmas time in Florida, people would put Christmas lights on a palm tree, which I think is just outrageous. So for me, I love the people here, and I just love the scenery. I love the mountains. I love the air. So yeah, and no alligators, so that's a plus.
Well, if you haven't seen a bear yet, you've gotten lucky. We had one anonymous question that came through right as we started, and that was submitted by a student. Is it hard to do your job at times, and why? Is it hard to do your job?
I'm sorry, my internet dropped. Is that another question?
Yeah, we had a student submit a question. Is it hard to do your job, and why?
Some days it is, just because of challenges. Others have mentioned, we do deal with the public, and so customers can be challenging at times, or rather their issues are challenging. They're really not challenging. And sometimes working with IT resources, computer systems don't always work the way they're supposed to, and so that can really be a burden sometimes to overcome. So yeah, those are probably the two main challenges.
So to answer that question, I would ask our students, how do you feel when your teacher or your principal or your mother or your father or your coach reminds you of what the rules are? Okay, that's what makes our job hard, because we make the rules and remind people to follow them. And sometimes people just don't like rules.
For me, sometimes dealing with difficult customers can be tough. And sometimes I have to have very hard conversations with employees, and even had to fire people. And that's never an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I would say it's the client groups I work with. They're awesome, but sometimes they can have unrealistic expectations of a unicorn candidate or this perfect person that's out there. And it's like, hey, we can't find that person. They do not exist. So I'll say that's probably the most challenging. That's probably the most challenging part of my job.
Oh, well, we appreciate your insights, and thank you all so much for your time. Thank you all the students who were able to submit questions through the Q&A. I am going to turn things back over to Audia for wrap up.
Thank you, Jessica. Students, we hope you were exposed to some new careers and organizations in our region today. You can continue your career exploration through Major Clarity and the Career Choice website and activities. Remember, the more you engage, the more you earn. This panel counts as an activity towards Career Choice gear, as do the other panels, the scavenger hunt, and the survey. Thank you so much to our moderator, panelists, teachers, and sponsors who made today's discussion possible. We couldn't bring Career Choice to our regional students without you. Here's hoping that we get to see you all, your business, students, and teachers back in person next school year. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.